On behalf of the Consumers Union of the Philippines, I am Dean Rodel Taton, and on the part of the CUP, we strongly support this anti-scalping bill. Consumers, in exercising their right to choose, because this particular bill looks into the right of the consumers to choose, answering the statements of the DTI earlier on the unconscionable, unfair, and deceptive practices as based on this scalping practice. And the consumers, in exercising their right to choose, should be allowed to decide on the best outcome for them, even if it is for entertainment purposes. As of course we have experience like UAAP games, the basketball games. Um, yes, it's not limited to um, to entertainment or sports. Yes, of course, common is UAAP games, cheering, the cheer dance competition, even theater shows, for example, or sports events or concerts. The scalpers would overprice a ticket as high as 10 times its original value, to the point that consumers, like all of us, would rather not attend entertainment events. But the scalpers have deprived the consumers of their right to choose. Thus, for example, the 10% limit is proper, but to some extent, we would like to comment on Article 4, letter E, on the 10% there. We would rather not recommend the 10%, because one question is the 10% a proper baseline, or should it be that the intent to gain or the intent to profit should be the point that we have to consider. And with the passage of this law, there are some considerations which must be looked into, and some questions that we would like to answer as well. I mean, this committee and the proposed proponents to look into. Some cities like Pasay and Quezon City have already scalping ordinances in effect. Yet scalpers, like in Araneta Coliseum or here in Pasay with MOA, still find a way to sell overpriced tickets. So how will these be monitored by the appropriate agencies like the DTI? Given that online selling has proliferated, how will the law protect the online consumers? Because selling right now is not just face-to-face, but online consumers mostly, and the complaints are in the SOCMED, usually online. So the right to choose is not limited to online, offline. They are considered both from overpriced tickets and potential scams. So how will enforcers ensure that scalping is at a minimum if there is such a limitation? So how will we distinguish those who resell for a valid reason not to attend and scalpers? So as mentioned by the Mr. Chair earlier, so assuming the bill pushes through, we should change the no refund policy, as there may be others who have a genuine reason. So like if you have to attend to something important. So on the part of the Consumers Union of the Philippines, one recommendation that we 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 decided upon is for the authorized ticket sellers to require basic information from the buyers and limiting the tickets allowed to be purchased, which is actually right now some of the ticket sellers are already considering, not only here in the Philippines but abroad, like for example in South Korea for the K-pop events. There are certain limitations where documentary requirements such as uploading of the ID or identification card and proper verification before one may purchase tickets. This may allow the ticket sellers, also the management to look into the proper persons who are not using it to gain more profit. So the Consumers Union of the Philippines is in support of this proposed bill. However, how will it ensure that it exacts maximum compliance, given that there are already ordinances in certain cities and yet scalpers still find a way to sell or scam the consumers? And that's one question that, yes. So it's interesting.
Yes, thank you. And I think those are very valid points. And as mentioned earlier, of course, meron din talaga mga instances where bibili ka ng ticket and then for some reason may nangyari, hindi mo na, hindi mo na pwedeng puntahan yung concert. And of course, you might sell it to a friend. So of course, that's a very reasonable scenario. Kaya may 10% threshold para sa mga instances where bumili talaga, wala naman silang intention na resell, pero nagkataon lang na may conflict sa schedule. So hopefully we can refine those parts of the bill. And then, at the same time, a simple question lang, baka kayang sagutin ng TicketNet. Na minsan pag may mga concert, sasabihin nila na as of 7 a.m. pwede ka nang bumili ng ticket. Ako, minsan pipila ko 7 a.m. 7:01 pa lang, ubus na yung mga ticket.
Yes.
So tataka ako, paano ba nangyayari yun? Ano yan? Kasi based on our studies, meron daw mga bots daw, gumagamit sila ng mga bots or I don't know, minsan may inside job daw. Kaya, minsan pumila din ako para sa isang concert dahil favorite ng anak ko. So, talagang pumila ako. Parang wala pa ngatang, wala pa isang minuto, ubos na yung mga ticket. Kaya nagtataka din ako, paano pa nangyari yan? So maybe you can take it that or maybe someone can shed some light. How is that possible? That is it pre-sold or paano ba yan? And this is not just me, marami din nagko-complain na parang, ba't ang bilis naman? So maybe you can answer that question. Someone can answer that.
We will hear from TicketNet, Live Nation, and the SM Group. Sige, ma'am, Miss Karen Santa Ana.
Yes,
Please.
hi. Good afternoon po. With regards to that po, when we do the selling, normally we have different sales channels. We have the online, we have the outlets, and then for us, we also have what we call the box office, which is located in QC, Araneta, Cubao. Opo. So sabay-sabay po yan normally. So that's why sometimes, even if nakapila, nauubusan talaga. Although in our case, seldom mangyari yung 7 o'clock tapos 7:01, wala na. I cannot speak in behalf of other agency but or authorized agent. But for us, normally what we do, kasi kawawa po talaga yung nakapila, what we do is sometimes we allot na po then allocation for those in line. But syempre we cannot count lahat ng nakapila kasi continuous din po sila dumadating. So there will be instances that if they arrived, let's say an hour late, minsan wala na silang inaabutan. Pero may iba rin po habang nakapila, they try to buy online using their mobile phones. And then pag nakabili na sila, aalis na rin po sila dun sa pila. Yeah.
Experience of Live Nation naman, Miss Pascua.
Hi, good afternoon po, Chair Pimentel and Senator Mark Villar. I can't thank you enough for coming up with this anti-ticket scalping act because it's been a problem for decades now, no? We try to be creative as promoters. Nagbebenta kami ng tickets. Pero nagiging mas creative yung scalpers. There are two types of people that we deal with. Scammers and scalpers. Scalpers sell tickets that are way above the face value. The scammers sell tickets using images online, and then after you send them the money, they disappear. So, galit na po kami sa mga ganyan. Marami pong batang kung saan pa nang gagaling pagdating sa Manila, na-scam pala sila. And heartbreaking po talaga. Nag-iipon, hindi kumakain ng lunch. Tapos ganyan na nangyayari sa kanila. So, yung 10% proposition po ninyo, for me po kasi giving even 1% sounds, sends a message that it's okay to resell. So parang sana wag na lang po. Para every chance that I get, nagpo-post po ako sa personal social media ko na please do not buy from scalpers. Please do not buy from third-party companies. Marami din po na galing sa Yung iba, companies in Singapore, companies in Malaysia, na nagre-resell din po ng tickets. Hindi rin natin alam kung legit sila or hindi. Another problem that we face, yung sinasabi niyo po, Senator Villar, na in a few minutes, ubus na. Kami rin po nagtataka. Kasi pag tumawag naman po kami sa either TicketNet or SM Tickets, marami pa naman pong available. So, yung iba po, we were told, nagre-release ng bots and nandun lang sila, nilalagay lang nila sa cart, pero hindi sila nag-check out. So, pag may ibang nag-try bumili, wala na silang nahanap na tickets kasi nasa cart lang, pero hindi naman talaga nag-check out. We don't know if it's being done on purpose against Live Nation or against the ticket sellers. Kasi hindi naman po kami yung nagbebenta ng tickets, the companies.
When you say it's being done on purpose against Live Nation, ibig sabihin, sabotage? To sabotage your project?
Siguro po.
Ano?
Siguro po.
Posibleng ano?
Because
Grabe.
kasi hindi naman po sila nag-check out. Kung gusto nila talaga bilhin, mag-check out po sila, di ba? Pero nandun lang po sila, magbababad sila ng ilang oras doon. So other people, other consumers will get the impression that wala ng tickets. So yung mga consumers po,
That's a software, software that can be solved by software. You limit the number of minutes na nasa cart siya. Pwede?
I believe
Pwede, di ba?
pwede pong may,
Pwede,
I
ganun.
think it's a software
But
yeah.
you announce it. It must be found in the app or in the program. May announcement doon.
Yeah,
The
like what
ticket can only be held in your cart for 30 minutes. Mga ganun.
or 15 minutes,
Or
something
15
like that.
minutes, or mga ganun.
But people are impatient. So the more the consumers get creative, for example, one person can use 5 gadgets to
Yun ang-
try to purchase
yun ang-
tickets.
oo nga.
Nagiging mas creative pa po yung mga scammers or yung scalpers by using bots nga po.
Yung scammers, ano naman yun, ma'am, no? Ma'am, penalize na yun. Yung scammers pa,
Dapat
yung
po.
talagang walang ticket na binibenta yun eh. Consumer Act, ano na yun? No need to clarify, no need to provide details. Punishable na sa Consumer Act yun.
But how-
Yung scammers, ba? Yung scammers as described by Ms. Pascua. Binibenta ticket na walang ticket.
Yes.
Kahit i-print out mo yung binili mo, hindi ka tatanggapin sa venue kasi fake
Wala
yun.
pong
Oh.
mapiprint.
Okay yun. Scalper itong ating yung gusto nyo sa Article 52 bigyan ng konting detalye si anti-scalping.
Yes.
Okay. So yun ang natin, yun ang inaayos natin. And then tama yung 10%, I also have my reservations sa 10%. Pero yung gumamit ng 5 gadget to buy tickets for the purpose of getting tickets for himself and their friends or for the purpose of reselling, scalping na yun. Pag purpose of reselling.
Pag purpose of
yes,
reselling po. Because usually po,
Tama, okay.
we have a cap, which is 4 tickets. 4 tickets per
Okay.
transaction.
For transaction, okay.
Nagugulat po kami yung iba, may nakita po yung SM. Kasi we always meet with SM or TicketNet. Ano ba pwede natin gawin? Bakit mas magaling sila sa atin? Ganyan. Meron po silang nahuli na 4 tickets po yung capacity namin, yung limit. May nakabili po na bots na 2,000 tickets. Why do we know? Because it's coming from the same IP address. So, mas magaling po apparently.
In that particular instance,
Okay.
the IP address is may location yan eh. Philippines or abroad?
Philippines.
Philippines. Magaling.
Opo.
Magaling. Okay. Okay. Sige.
So in-investigate, we work together with the ticketing companies. We work closely, especially pag on sale na.
Hacker. Sige. Ma'am, okay na ma'am. Can we hear from SM Group?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. First of all, thank you so much for this opportunity to participate in this public hearing. I agree on a personal level, not as a representative. I agree with the sentiment that scalping is very detrimental for consumers because I have been a victim of a scalper before on attending UAAP basketball events. So the ticket was for around 1,000 and I paid almost 3,000 to attend that ticket, that event. So when it comes to how SM implements the purchase policies of the promoters, we at SM, we usually follow the rules provided to us by the promoter companies. So if they require us to issue only four for a particular person, we will only issue four for that person. And also, if ever the promoter instructs us to verify these individuals during upon entry of the venue, for example, the promoter requires us to check the IDs, then following the promoter's instructions, we will also implement those regulations. We're doing our part in making sure that scalping be curbed on all levels. So with that, Your Honor, we're thankful for this initiatives.
Si scalper, ito para just to guide the chairman, si scalper, nagre-risk siya, di ba? Nagre-risk siya, bibili siya parang wholesale, then tataasan niya, pwedeng mabenta niya lahat, pwedeng hindi niya mabenta. Pagpalapit na ba yung time ng event, kita niya hindi niya nabebenta, ano ginagawa niya? Dinadrop din niya into the price printed on the ticket? Ano po ba ma'am yung general yes, Miss Santa Ana, just
Possible, sir, yes. Opo. So they also follow the supply and demand concept. So kapag
so nagre-risk, nagte-take lang siya ng risk, ito kikita ako, then yung sa UAP triniple niya
yes, opo.
So yun, and then siguro pag palapit na ng palapit yung time ng event na may hawak pa siyang ibang tickets just to dispose of it,
Yes.
i-drop na niya.
Opo.
Okay, that's the idea. Mabuti nga dito ng BIR si scalper no tax. Ay ba? No tax. Si ticket seller, promoter with tax. Buti BIR sa mic para recorded, makita natin. That's why but how is that tax treatment of the scalper? Yeah, for the record, sabihin nyo. Sige na para nakita niya hindi lang ito for the concert goers but even from the point of view ng gobyerno. Attorney Agabao? Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. If the scalper is not registered with the BIR, we cannot capture if he pays the taxes or not.
Is there a scalping activity na sa tingin mo? Naka-register? Di-declare din niya ang cost of goods niya is the ticket price, tapos yung revenue niya is the more than 10. Wala. So talagang okay. So talagang dapat habulin natin to at saka to?
That answer is SMEP Legal.
Sige, si SM Vice President of Legal Operations, Attorney Josefina Remolyo is here. Andito ka, ma'am. Ma'am, sige ma'am. Share with us what you know or what is your sentiment.
Good afternoon, Attorney Purshun Kula and si Miss Risa. I'm Attorney Josefina Remolyo. I handle all the complaints of SM tickets with regard to scalping. And the DTI is very familiar with me with regard to this. Iba-iba ko kasi klase ng scalping eh. Siguro ho naintindihan ko lang ho yun nung maging K-pop fan ako. And I really travel out of the country. So natutunan ko ho yung mga restriction ng South Korea, Japan, and the other countries like Singapore and US. So sa kwan ho, dito ho sa atin sa Pilipinas, meron hong gumagamit nga ng bots, like what Miss Risa said. We call it Macros program. Ang nakakatuwa ho sa kanila, bibili ho sila, tapos ipapasa ho, pag naka-check na, nakuha na nila yung ticket, ipapasa ho nila yan doon sa talagang bibili. Tapos yung bumibili siya na magbabayad. Ganun silang kagaling na. And they use the Macros program. And that's why SM has also adopted certain software to control that. So we're slowly managing that. Which is the most effective among the scalpers is the ticketing assistant. Very popular ho yan. Kahit you go to the social media, ito ho mga tao na to, tutulungan ho nila yung mga gustong bumili ng ticket for a price. And that's the scalping activity. And that's why talagang magsasubmit ho ako ng position paper on how you can define scalping activities. Hindi ho pwede yung limited yung definition ng scalping activities. So, ang gagawin din ho ng ticketing assistant, may contact na sila ng mga regular concert goers. Ay, meron na silang kaibigan. Yeah. So, may kausap na sila ho, may mga customer sila. Kasi ho ako rin, I wanted sana to buy a ticket in Korea when I was in Korea. Kasi nabili ko sa Korea na ticket, nasa itaas. So sabi ko gusto ko sa VIP with sound check. Binebentahan ho ako ng 85,000. And then hindi ibibigay pa sa yung ticket until the day before the concert or the day itself. So talagang hirap ho talaga. So talagang kakagat ho kayo doon. So ang panho, yung ticketing assistant, ganun ho ang gagawin. Hindi ho kayo sisingilin. Pag nabili na yung ticket nyo, at saka ibebenta sa inyo. Papakita sa inyo, ang gagamitin pa ng ticketing assistant, yung SM ticket account ninyo. Ganun silang kagaling. Yung ticket, kasi mas mabilis yung kanilang Wi-Fi, internet, and then gumagamit ho sila ng VPN, so hindi nyo matitrace ang kanilang location. Kaya lang ho namin napansin, like what Miss Risa said, pare-pareho sila ng IP address. So, SM has started cracking down on this, and we have canceled the transactions of all of this. Kung wari ho, 4 na accounts na yun na pare-pareho sila ng VPN or IP address, kakanselin ho namin yung 3, isa lang ho ang palulusutin namin. So, ganun ho yung ginagawa na ho ng SM ngayon. So, we've been trying to monitor the activities of the scalpers right now. And we're trying to go ahead. In fact, we changed a lot of our guidelines in the terms of use of the platform. Na ang sinabi namin, the moment we can see abnormal or unusual activities, or behaviors, we will cancel the transaction without notice. So marami ho na nagsasampa. And hinaharap ko ho sila, sabi ko sa kanila, bakit ganito? Apat yung account mo. Bakit iba-iba ang email address mo. Pero iisa, 4 yung account. Kumari ako ho, Josefina Remolyo. Pero ang email address ko iba-iba. jwr@yahoo.com, jwr@gmail.com. Iba-iba ho yun. Para nang sa ganun makapasok siya ng iba-iba kasi iba-ibang may-ari nung mga email na yon. Kasi ho, nung dati ho kami, ang nagtitrigger ng creation ng accounts is the email address. So we're trying to crack that down as well. Tinatanggal ho namin yung iba na may email address tapos iba-iba yung user account. Kuwari, JWR, pero ang email account niya, jwr@yahoo.com. Or Josefina Remolyo, ang email account niya, jwr@yahoo.com pa rin. So we're trying to do and correct that also. And we really welcome these scalping activities because I've been really wanting to pursue legal action against these scalpers. Ang lakas nga ako ng loob ng mga scalpers. Yung mga ganun, kinancel namin yung account, yung transactions. Nagdidiman pa sila na i-refund sa kanila yung online fees nila na 100 per ticket after we cancel their transactions, which we're still studying whether we should.
Who charged that 100 per ticket?
Si
Online.
SM Ticket ho, for the
Part.
use of the platform.
Part yun? Part
Yes, kasi ho,
No.
marami hong,
For the use, but hindi siya based on the number of tickets?
no,
What?
hindi ho,
Or-
kwan ho yun, one straight kwan ho.
Hindi, ma'am, yung example ninyo na 4 na ginagamit, ilang tickets ang bought nung example mo na gano'n? Ilang tickets? How many tickets were bought?
Minsan ho, ang inaalaw ho namin, 2 lang yung makakalusot sa kanila, yung 3. Minsan bibili
Hindi,
ng
ano purpose
2
ng
per
times,
account
times 2,
or
8?
4.
They just wanted 8 tickets, gano'n ba yun?
Probably ha. Or iba-ibang may-ari noong per account.
Yes.
Iba-ibang order.
But let us say nag-succeed yung 4 na yun, ang maximum tickets niya 8 lang nakuha niya kasi on a per purchase may cap ka na 2.
Yes.
Kada lang yung binibilhan.
Kasi ho, ang reselling ho, especially, hindi ko ho alam sa UAP ho, hindi ho, walang guidelines, ano.
Yes.
Basta for as long as they are available, okay. Kaya ho, walang ticket. I hope the committee understands that the tickets in the UAAP and CAA are distributed to the different schools.
Yes.
So ang natitira ho lang dyan, upper or in general admission, upper box. Pag hindi ho na-ibenta ni school, ibabalik ho yan sa SM Tickets for us to sell. Kaya biglang magkakaroon ng available tickets. Ganon din ho yung mga concerts. Kukunin din ho ni Kwan yan kasi may mga ex-deals ho din sila event promoter. Pag hindi nagamit, ibabalik ho nila right before the concert. So biglang may papasok na mga ticket. So yun ho yung ganun ho yung nangyayari.
Sige. So that we really have to define scalping very accurately kasi criminal din, penal provision din ito. So we have to siguro ma'am, you want to say something, Ms. Pascua? Before we go to NBI, sir, I'll ask you. Yes, Ms. Pascua.
Sorry po. I have a quick question. So that makes it legitimate po, yung mga assistant na yan, since there's consent from the person?
As far as we know, if the ticketing assistant activities can be detected as if there's only one person buying for all of these accounts, we cancel. All 3, the other 3, kung 4 yon, we only leave 1. Because we are allowing the one kasi 2. Kasi yun, like Weavers allows only purchase of 1 ticket during the pre-sale. Tapos during the general sale, you can buy as many kung meron pang ticket. Kasi most of the time, during the general selling, wala na ho yan. I'm talking more of the K-pop because ito hong K-pop ang talagang sobrang challenging ho for the ticketing ticketing outlets. So, mahaba pila, reklamo ng mga tao, syempre ho, ganun. So, we're doing everything we can na ma-curtail yung
Totoo naman po yun. Yung sa ano naman po, sa BIR, yung isang, syempre, complaint po namin as concert promoters. We pay amusement taxes, we pay VAT and income tax. And we pay for all the expenses. We pay the artist, the venue, to mount everything. And then we find out that they're selling it 5 times more than what we're selling it for. I just think it's unfair. Yung Olivia Rodrigo po na ginawa namin, 1,500 po lahat ng tickets. 1,500 pesos lahat ng tickets. Pero ang ginawa po namin, pinangalanan na namin lahat ng tickets. Para may pangalan po lahat ng tickets, mahirap ng scalp or makascam. Pero magaling nga po talaga yung mga scalpers. When they sell it, they were selling it for 52,000 pesos. Kasama po dun yung copy ng driver's license ng seller and copy ng passport. Sabi mo, mami mo ko, wala ako dyan. So, ito, pakita mo na lang yun. Ganun po. Magaling po sila talaga.
Wala akong masabi kundi grabe
Sir, I agree with Ms. Risa that the 10% additional for reselling should not be indicated in the law. Dapat zero ho talaga yon. Just in case you want to know, sa states ho, reselling of tickets is legal. That's why from Ticketmaster, yung mga tickets ibinebenta sa StubHub. That's the ticket reseller of the tickets being sold from Ticketmaster.
Legal. That's the legal.
Yes,
legally
that's legal sa kanila. At least,
kaya pala.
yung nagre-resell, registered company.
Correct.
Si StubHub. And they get to pay the taxes and all.
What's the price of the reseller compared to the price no seller?
That's like
US.
3 times to 5 times.
Sa US. Sa
Yes.
US.
And they also sell tickets of the K-pop.
No, so the consumers in the US know that they're paying 3 times as much if from this reseller if they had bought from the original seller.
StubHub. Yes.
So
Kasi hindi yung
ano yun?
kayo
Parang lantad yun. Walang problema.
Wala ho.
Walang issue. Okay.
And they ita-transfer pa sa pangalan noong bumili.
Yun. Ma'am, in the mic, Miss Pat.
It's a legitimate company po. They pay taxes naman po.
Precisely. Ganun.
Yeah.
Yun ang point. Wala silang pakialam
Wala
yung
silang
agreement din yung
tinatago.
dalawa yun. Kahit na, siyempre, magkukomentaryo yung di ba? Some consumers, although familiar siguro ng Americans doon sa system na gano'n,
Opo.
they're not.
Opo, so people don't complain.
Yeah.
Pero dito po kasi parang medyo
So dito,
na-abuse po yung
given your
mga
Olivia
bata.
Rodrigo concert experience na linagay nyo na yung identity or name na circumvent pa rin, and then
Opo,
times 30 times 30
1,500 ang bili po niya,
52,000. More
52,000.
than 30. Oh, grabe. BIR, laki na namin nakalusot na
Grabe po yun. Kami po mabait magbayad. Publicly owned company
how many,
po kami.
sige ma'am, para lang makita ko yung magnitude of the problem. Ilan tickets sa kay Olivia Rodrigo? How many tickets, for example?
55,000.
55,000.
siguro, around.
Ilan ang suspecha mong na scalper doon?
Madami po talaga eh.
5,000? 10%? You think?
Because it's too cheap.
Yeah. You think 10% was
10%
Ano,
po is too little.
Too little pa.
Opo.
Okay, sige. Okay. So, ganun kalala.
And hindi naman po namin alam, maraming nagko-complain sa amin, bakit hindi nyo pigilan ng scalpers? Hindi po namin alam ang mukha ng scalper.
You tried nga through the new
Through a lot of things.
requirement mo.
Yes.
Hindi, ang gusto ko sabihin talaga malala if it's more than 10% of the 55,000.
Oh yes, I would think it's around 30% po.
Did you think the scalper succeeded? Puno ba yung show? Full house ba?
Opo.
So binili pa rin yung 55,000.
Kasi mura po. So kami po, ang ginagawa namin, so we try to get sponsors to defray the production costs and lower the ticket prices.
Correct.
Para madaling maibenta.
Correct.
But when we make the ticket prices lower, ang nagbe-benefit naman po scalpers.
Correct. Ano nga natin yun? That's what we're trying to we'll make it clearly illegal or criminal. Pero yung mga systems ninyo, if it can be helped by software, gawin din ninyo. Yung mga makalusot pa doon, yun na yun. Subjected to the law na sila kasi scalping na yung ginawa nila eh.
Opo, at saka
But you have to do
yung scamming po rin talaga.
The scamming, beyond the subject matter na dito yun kasi stapa na halos yun, di ba? Parang,
Opo.
paano na po yung crime na po ngayon yun? I mean, anong specific crime? Stapa ba yun? Stapa, and maybe some, maybe some other specific Consumer Act provision. Crime na po yun kasi you're selling a piece of the blue sky.
Yes. and unable to trace because it's normally their transactions are online po.
Okay, so basta klaruin ko lang yung scamming, ito muna sa scalping muna tayo. Yun yung kaklaruhin natin. Sige, we'll benefit from the experience and the wisdom of the NBI. Attorney Heronaga. Yes, sir.
Oops. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Marami po ako natutunan sa discussion this afternoon. In fact,
hindi ka concert goer? Hindi ka K-pop concert goer, sir?
Actually, sir, I was trying, I don't go to concerts, but I love to watch games, big games. Kaya lang, yung last PIBA, hindi ako nakabili kasi ang bilis na ubos ng tickets. So, kaya I was able to relate with the stories of our colleagues here. Okay. Now, sir, let me, we have already submitted our position paper, and then let me read some salient paragraphs of our position paper. The NBI supports the enactment of Senate Bill 2873, considering that this is the first proposal against ticketed scalpers. The bill aligns with the NBI's mandate to undertake investigations relating to violations of commercial, economic, and financial crimes by granting authority to law enforcement agencies to act as complainants. The bill empowers the NBI to proactively pursue individuals and entities engaged in ticketed scalping. In the past, sir, way back in I think 2008, the NBI were able to arrest 6 scalpers sa UAP Games. That was 2008. Ang ginamit naming batas dyan ay yung ordinance ng Quezon City. So walang national law actually for ticketed scalping. Yung sa section 52 ng Consumer Act, wala kasing mahirap mahirap kasing ma-determine kung ano yung abuse na nangyari between the seller and the consumer. So we welcome the proposed bill, sir. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for pointing out that even the FIBA games pala, so malalang problema talaga pala. Lahat nila, lahat papatulan. Unfair nga dun sa mga naghago, dun sa mga nag-exert na mga all the effort, all the details, all the pencil pushing, lahat, compute for the fair price of the ticket. Tapos, 1.5 naging 52,000. I mean, that's too much. Sige, so we will welcome the submission of position papers or insights, inputs, more inputs para ano natin. Pero I agree with you. Kaya pala merong Attorney Remolyo, yung sinabi mo, kaya pala may na-encounter ako na isang ordinance, kahit na not for profit ang pag-resell, pinanish na isang LGU eh. Kahit discounted, pinapanish kasama sa ordinance, nagulat ako, even discounted. So, ibig sabihin nun, yung the person who bought the tickets, hindi na nga for profit yung ano niya because at the discount niya binenta. But maybe the original plan was for a profit. Dumating na yung point na hawak mo pa maraming tickets at a discount. Pero yung sinabi niyo, ma'am, nasa US, outright policy na. Reselling is illegal unless you are the authorized reseller. So even if you resell it at a discount, bawal. So that was the essence of that ordinance na nakita ko. Ma'am, you want to say something, Ms. Santa?
Sir, yung pag binebenta ng discounted, kadalasan yun, sir, complimentary yung tickets nila. That's why there's no puhunan and then they sell it kunwari discounted. For example, the published price is 10,000. They will sell it to you 5,000. Oh, syempre ikaw, uy, mas mura. Bibili mo na. But if you look at the ticket, it says complimentary. You're not supposed to sell it talaga po.
Well, pero hindi siguro naman maramihan yung ganyan. Unless, do you issue complimentary tickets by the thousands?
Di naman, sir.
Oh, naman. So, I mean, that should not be the problem na some complimentary tickets are sold. I mean, parang ano lang yun eh. Parang yung sinasabi niyo, ma'am, na personal, 1:1 transaction. So, but at any rate, we will address this kasi medyo ano na pala, anong tawag mo doon? Widespread or anong tawag mo? Pervasive practice. Okay, which destroys legitimate business also. And the trust, I mean the trust of the consumer sa pricing din ninyo. Also, tama na sisira lahat eh. Parang nasisira lahat. And then untaxed pa. Untaxed pa out to other. Sige, so ganoon na lang po. I thank you. We proceed to the next. I thank you for your attendance and welcome written inputs at the soonest possible time. So thank you very much for your attendance. So can I call for 3 minutes? CR break tayo. Sige. Our session is hereby suspended. Senate Bill number 2791 on the Digital Nomads Visa Act. So, siguro, let's hear from the Department of Tourism. Sige. ASEC Charlene Zabala Batin. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and Senator Coco Pimentel, and to the rest of the resource speaker. Mukhang umunti na po tayo. But for the end of the Department of Tourism, sir, I'm here to represent the sector that handles visa reforms programs for the Department of Tourism, among which is this Digital Nomads Visa. To give some context, sir, Mr. Chair, we have been requested by the Office of the Executive Secretary of the Office of the President last year around September to provide them with a cost-benefit analysis for this Digital Nomads Visa program. And last August 30, 2024, our Secretary Cristina Garcia Frasco submitted this cost-benefit analysis, of which we will be glad to provide a copy to your team. I have some copies today. And just a background on providing Digital Nomad Visa is not limited to our country, or this is not something that the Philippines is looking at. In fact, our neighbors have already provided this for their possible digital nomad tourists in their country. Case in point, the following countries have already provided digital nomad visa. If I may run through them, Malaysia has their DE Rantau Nomad Visa that allows foreign nationals to work remotely across various locations in Malaysia for a maximum of 12 months on a renewable basis. Indonesia has their Indonesian remote worker visa program, or the E33J visa, that aims to provide digital nomads and remote employees to live and work in their country. Thailand has their Destination Thailand visa, allowing foreign digital nomads, freelancers, and remote workers to temporarily stay in Thailand for up to 180 days per visit on a multiple entry basis within 5 years. Likewise, beyond ASEAN, Republic of Korea has a workation digital nomad visa. Japan already also allows for digital workers to stay. In fact, even provides for their spouse and children to accompany these workers. Sri Lanka is still on the process of doing their digital nomad visa, and Spain has already provided for a visa to remote workers, either for a company or a self-employed person that is not a Spanish national, using computer telemetrics and other telecommunication systems. And these, all these countries po has different lengths of approved nomad visa stay and for their nationals. And we can also provide the requirements that each country is requesting and the appropriate measures therefore. So likewise po, the report that the Secretary of the Department of Tourism provided for the Office of the Executive Secretary details the cost benefit on the following pillars: economic pillar, social-cultural pillar, and environmental pillar, of which, Sir Chair, it seems that the benefit outweighs the cost. And likewise, we can provide the same po to you. And for to further and to conclude, UN Tourism Brief on Digital Nomad presents the following findings. The host destination can be innovative and retain its highly skilled workers. But there is a caution here from the United Nations that destination must ensure the integration of digital nomads to the local economy, the culture, and measure the positive or negative impacts of these programs on the destination. There is also an opportunity that UN Tourism has seen on the DNV programs to promote less visited destination of any of these countries. Particularly for us, we have so many islands that we can promote as a digital nomad destination, particularly our rural areas, to stimulate the demand for visitors and increase the tourism period or season for tourism, not just during the peak season, Mr. Chair. Destinations can also benefit from the increased potential of the purchasing power of these digital nomads. And in terms of how it is being assessed, if this is a trend or will be a continuing and relevant tourism market source for us, is yet to be determined by the UN Tourism po. So for the Department of Tourism's point of view, sir, the implementation of the digital nomad visa will provide continuous support in achieving our 7 main objectives underscored in our National Tourism Development Plan, which include improvement of tourism infrastructure and accessibility, cohesive and comprehensive digitalization and connectivity, the enhancement of overall tourism experience, the equalization of the tourism product development and promotion of our destination, diversification of our tourism portfolio, the maximization of our international and domestic tourists, and the strengthening of tourism governance through close collaboration with the national and local stakeholders. So we fully support the passage of this bill. And overall, digital nomad visa and similar kinds of long stay visa can significantly boost our tourism destination by attracting a wider and diverse range of visitors, including pre-retirees and overwintering travelers aside from digital nomads. These programs also encourage longer stay, stimulate our local economy, maximize our international tourists, and of course, extend and expand their tourist spending in the country. That's all for the Department of Tourism, Mr. Chair.
You conducted the cost-benefit analysis and the conclusion is that the benefits outweigh the costs.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay. And then, ang approach yung tatlo? Tatlo ba yun? Sabi?
So the economic cost and benefits. There are social and cultural costs and benefits, and the environmental costs.
Okay. Sige po. Pero if we push them sa mga, if we want them to be located dun sa mga
Remote
remote and
areas.
rural, paano yung paano yung, di ba they're supposed to be dependent on connectivity
Connectivity.
or ano?
Yes, sir. We are the Department of Tourism right now is looking into how we can create a parang checklist if a destination is primed and ready for digital nomads. For example, sir, the island of Siargao has become a haven for digital nomads because the Starlink, the presence of satellite internet and connectivity also provides them with the required infrastructure. And then the island vibe also now provides them with their leisure requirements.
So they're happy. If you conduct a survey among these digital nomads who are already de facto present in Siargao,
Yes.
they will give us a parang satisfaction,
Yes, sir.
satisfaction rating na okay sila.
Yes, sir. In fact,
With the-
we have seen I cannot provide actual numbers, but during the pandemic, some of those digital nomads decided to stay on because of their lifestyle. And we have now been being identified as a potential digital nomad destination by the digital nomad community, global community. So we wanted to jump on this and leverage on this increasing demand for Philippines for digital nomads, but we need a
Well, currently, what is the type of their visa?
Tourist.
Anong limitation tourist?
Limited
Ilan
stay,
yan?
sir, and
Ilan
then
yan?
we have
At
to
yan si immigration,
Immigration.
si Riban. Tourist, Panyero, how long ang legal stay ng tourist?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Sir, for tourist visas, basically, the foreigners are only allowed for limited purpose, visit for pleasure, and some medical purposes only.
The length of stay?
For the non-restricted foreign nationals, Mr. Chair, like U.S. citizens, when they arrive here, the immigration stamps their visas with an EO 408 visa, which means they have 30 days only of visa waiver free stay, which is extendable, Mr. Chair. But basically, they couldn't work.
Hassle yun. Extendable hassle. You have to visit now the immigration.
Yes, we have satellite offices naman po.
Okay, but still have to make that
they have to
the
visit po to extend.
appearance and okay.
Yes po.
So pero for those restricted, anong binibigay nyo?
For restricted foreign nationals, Mr. Chair, for example, Chinese nationals, they enter with a valid 9A entry visa, which is valid for 59 days, Mr. Chair, and then extendable thereafter.
Yung non-restricted, ilan? 60?
60, Mr. Chair.
Lamang lang siya ng 1 day?
Mr. Chair, 30 days po for non-restricted, 59 days for the restricted foreign nationals. So basically 2 months po. But the difficulty naman po is yung pagkuha ng entry visa with our Philippine Post po in the foreign country. So mas madali pa rin po yung to enter yung non-restricted natin.
Yung tourist, okay, de facto, ang hawak niya na visa is a tourist visa, pero digital nomad siya. Sa mata natin is not working here. No issue yun.
Mr. Chair, as long as they are not locally employed or here in the Philippines, wala naman pong issue. The problem nga lang, sir, is Mr. Chair, is that they have to extend yung yun po yung hassle that we give them eh.
Oh, so nak-save natin siya ng masisave na talaga ma-attract sila okay. Tsaka walang ka-issue even if somebody finds out that they're working online as a digital nomad, no issue kasi may visa kang digital nomad. Okay. Sige, and this is to be granted by the BI.
Yes, Mr. Chair, the application and eventually the approval is with the Bureau of Immigration, Mr. Chair.
So tuloy-tuloy mo na, Panyero, any comment on the on the bill?
Mr. Chair, on behalf of the Commissioner of Immigration, I would like to inform this honorable committee that on last July 30, 2024, the Executive Secretary, Honorable Lucas Bersamin, likewise required the BI to submit a regulatory framework with regard to the study on the grant of digital nomad visa. So BI already submitted our report and the proposed operations order to the Office of the President last November 11, 2024. Mr. Chair, if we compare the present proposed Digital Nomads Visa Act and proposed guidelines of the BI, we just inserted several detailed requirements for the foreign nationals. But basically, Mr. Chair, is the same naman po. So we will be submitting our detailed position paper then within the before the committee.
De facto, wala pa.
Within 7 days, Mr. Chair.
Okay, but as pointed out by ASEC Batin, ano na rin naman, ano? Marami nang nagpa-practice nito. Sa ASEAN pa.
Yes, Mr. Chair, if I may add,
Yes,
length of stay for the following countries are the following. For Malaysia, it is 3 months to 12 months. For Thailand, it's 180 days per entry and is valid for 5 years. For Indonesia, it's 1 year renewable. For the Republic of Korea, it's multiple entry visa valid for a year. For Japan, it's 6 months, but no extension is to be granted. They have to renew. For Sri Lanka, again, this is still very on the pipeline, 1 year ang balak po nila. And for Spain, it's a minimum stay of 6 months per year for a 1 year length.
Anong difference ng extension at saka renew? Nare-review rin naman ng, di ba, pag nagre-renew ka, kanya, anong bansa yun? Japan yung sabi mo, ano?
Yes, sir.
There's no extension but they have to renew. So, in our case, renewable for another 1 year. So, anong difference nun? Anong practical difference nun, Panyero? Attorney Siriban?
Mr. Chair, the term is interchangeable naman po. As long as we call the first application from a tourist visa to a digital nomad visa, we call it a conversion. That's for 1 year. And then they can renew or extend for another year. So basically 2 years po yung ibibigay natin for our digital nomads.
Anong logic dun sa nag-cap pa tayo? Bakit pa natin kinap? Ba't din natin sabihin na 1 year subject to renewal? Why do we put a cap na renewable for another year? Tapos sa expiration ng second year para nag-expire siya, but I believe we will allow him to also now apply again for a nomad visa.
Mr. Chair, if I base my answer on the proposed bill, after 2 years po kasi they have to downgrade back to a tourist visa, tapos mag-a-apply sila ng conversion uli to a new digital nomad po. Kasi we have certain rules po for foreign nationals with regard to their stay in the Philippines. Pag mayroon pong cumulative period na tipong mga 5 years na sa Philippines, we require naman po, the BI requires them to leave muna momentarily and then go back na lang po for monitoring purposes po on the part of the BI. But still, Mr. Chair, they can extend naman po.
Actually, we can do it subject to that other deadline na yung maximum stay. Siguro, we can do it that way. So, ibig sabihin nun, na-envision nyo pala pag-implement nito, that applicant for a nomad visa must already be here. Hindi pwede yung from the very start, digital nomad visa na apply mo pagdating mo rito, that yun na yung visa dala mo. Is that possible?
Mr. Chair, actually, during the deliberation in the lower house, the technical working group in the Congress, Mr. Chair, the proposal was that the foreigners can apply for a digital nomad visa in the Philippine Post in a foreign country. But sir, in the proposed bill, I guess the lost in translation po yung power of the DFA to issue a digital nomad visa. So yung proposal po in the lower house, may power po yung DFA and BI to issue. Yung mga nandito na po, sa immigration na po mag-a-apply. Pero yung mga foreign national po na gustong dumating dito with a digital nomad visa na doon po sa DFA, Philippine Post po sila mag-a-apply, Mr. Chair.
And we see nothing, diba? Nothing fundamentally wrong with that or no difficulties with that, diba? So yun ang gawin natin na hindi to result of a conversion. Pwede siyang originally, yun na yung visa mo. Okay. Mas maganda tayo na sekpa talagang to attract. Ando pa sila, alam nila na pagdating na sa Pilipinas, digital nomad sila dito. We use this for attracting them. So any other comments before we go to tax muna? Sige, any other comment on the bill, the non-tax features of the bill? Okay na, Peñar? Okay, let's now go to the tax angle here. Ang principle ata dito, they will be treated as a non-resident alien. So the tax regime for non-resident aliens ang applicable sa kanila, although they are physically here. Tama? Ganun yun? Ganun yung usapan?
Yes,
Sige.
Mr. Chair.
Can you now tell us ano naman ang tax regime para sa non-resident aliens?
Allow me to read the position of the BIR,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair. So the BIR commends the purpose of Senate Bill 2791, which is to attract long-term foreign visitors or digital nomads in the Philippines who work remotely while exploring the country's culture, landscape, and communities. They contribute to the local economy by increasing domestic spending and promote tourism in the Philippines. The Senate bill proposed to add the new category of visa for digital nomads to attract aliens to work in the Philippines to aid economic growth and boost tourism. The provision of the Senate bill, which has tax implications, is contained in the Section 4. So, under Section 22 of the National Internal Revenue of 1997 or Tax Code, defines resident alien as an individual whose residence is within the Philippines and who is not a citizen thereof, while the term non-resident alien means an individual whose residence is not within the Philippines and who is not a citizen thereof. Since the intention of the bill is not to consider the digital nomads as defined in Section 4 of the bill as residents of the Philippines for purposes of taxation, it is noteworthy to revisit Section 24 and 25 of the Tax Code, which provide for income tax rates on individual resident alien and non-resident aliens of the Philippines, respectively. In effect, the bill deems digital nomads as non-resident alien individuals not engaged in trade or business within the Philippines, regardless of their period of stay in the Philippines. It must be noted that a resident alien individual who stay in the Philippines for an aggregate period of more than 180 days during any calendar year shall be deemed a non-resident alien doing business in the Philippines pursuant to Section 25A, Paragraph A, Paragraph 1 of the Tax Code. This may need to be emphasized or clarified in Section 4 of the bill. Moreover, the prohibition of the employment of digital nomads in the Philippines should be clarified to include engaging foreigners on any contracting agreement, including consulting services, which subjects foreign nationals to applicable taxes in the Philippines. We will submit our official position paper once the commissioner approves.
Attorney Agabaw, yung na-mention mong consulting services, the client there is what? A Philippine-based client?
Yes.
Yun yung in-assume nyo doon?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Mr.
Sige, just to help me, no, para mas maintindihan ko. Okay, how is a non-resident alien defined in the NIRC at bakit siya dinidefine to sa NIRC? Meron ba siyang tax liability, si non-resident alien?
Bali, dalawa po yung classification ng non-resident sa NIRC. One is engage in trade or business within the Philippines, and the other one is not engage in trade or business within the Philippines.
Okay, tama. So, dito sa ating Section 4, saan siya? Itong digital nomad is a non-resident alien not engaged. Okay. What is our tax interest in a non-resident alien not engaged in business in the Philippines?
Bali, wala po siyang tax.
Nothing, di ba?
Yes po.
Okay. So yan ang gusto natin dito. That the digital nomad visa holder, although more than close to a year na siyang nasa Pilipinas,
25,
will be treated like a non-resident alien not conducting business in the Philippines.
let me clarify po
Sige.
yung answer ko doon sa
Yes, yes,
not
sige.
taxable po siya.
Mm.
So, not taxable po siya sa mga sources out, outside the Philippines. Pero taxable po siya ng 25% sa sources within the Philippines.
If this person, if this person, a digital nomad visa holder, suddenly generates income from within the Philippines, hindi niya violate yung visa niya? Ano ba, sa pagkaintindi, hindi ba niya violate yung visa niya because he's not supposed to be earning income, right?
Okay, good afternoon.
Yes, Attorney Galvez.
Dito po kasi, it is in relation also to the status of taxation. So, if we don't have this Digital Nomad Act, so if kanwari a freelancer, he works here, kahit employed siya, for example, in Spain or in Korea, as long as he is here, dito niya nirender yung work, kahit hindi Philippine entity yung nagpapasweldo sa kanya, he will be taxable under Philippine laws. So, pwedeng non-resident alien engage in trade or business if he exceeds the 180 days or not engage in trade or business which is taxed at 25% of the gross income pag hindi po siya nag-exceed ng 180 days. This is the scenario if we don't have this Digital Nomad Visa Act.
And kaya nga, yun na nga, if we now have this Digital Nomad Visa, this law, no tax.
No tax, sir.
Correct, di ba? Ayun, ina-attract na talaga natin eh. Precisely. So come and locate here. Pero doon lang ako na, okay, kasi ano ba yung illustration mo na yung income, he's earning income pero from sources abroad. But all of a sudden, there's a one-off transaction where he earns income from the Philippines. Ano yun?
No, sir. Kahit hindi po siya nag-earn ng income dito, as long as he is here, when he rendered that service, even if it's for a client abroad,
yes,
sa employer niya, he will still be taxable. Kasi under the status of taxation po, under the Internal Revenue Code, as long as he's here, the services are rendered here, he will be taxable po in the Philippines.
Meron na, kunyari nga, assume nga the scenario na ito na nga, meron ng law. Ito na yung law. Sa scenario mo na yun, no tax.
Yes, sir.
Correct.
No tax.
But if that digital nomad visa holder all of a sudden earns income from the Philippines, hindi ba niya violate yung visa niya?
It will be a violation po kasi it stated here that he shall not be allowed to be employed within the Philippines po.
Okay, pero can you earn income not through employment? Posible ba yun? One time. May one time transaction. May violation ba sa visa yun?
For example, sir, if he becomes an independent consultant po, then employed na siya in the Philippines. Pag po, Philippine entity.
Yes.
Yun po, taxable na siya. Hindi na mag-a-apply dapat yung Digital Nomad Visa Act.
Yeah, Attorney Siriban wants to contribute. Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, basically once he gains profit aside from being a digital nomad, that's already a violation of the visa, the limitations and conditions of the digital nomad visa, Mr. Chair.
Click to tayo ron. But just in case, kunyari nga, just in case, nag-violation na, but mayroong income pa generated from the Philippines na na-discover, ano magkikik in na rate doon sa NIRC? Because i-disregard mo ba yung violation ng digital nomad? So para siyang, he will be treated like a non-resident alien who earned income from the Philippines, engaged in business. Ilan yun? 25%? Yung sinabi mo kanina?
Yes, Mr. Chair,
Attorney
25%.
Bona Obra, 25%?
25%.
Okay. That's the tax angle. Iba naman yung violation of visa issue siguro. Iba na yun. Sige. So basta very clear lang. You are not supposed to be earning income from Philippine-based companies or from an activity servicing Filipino or Philippine-based entities. Mag-earn income ka from outside. Yan lang. Very strict tayo ron. Okay. Basta klaro. And you will not be a burden to, diba? General rule naman yun bago magpapasok ng foreigner eh. you will not be a burden to Philippine society. Diba? So, again, ang ating gagawin. Okay, so any other comments? You welcome. Okay ba to? Maganda ba to? Ano, Panyera?
Actually, sir, because with the International Tax Affairs Division, so actually we can see the transactions internationally. So nakikita na namin, it also happens in other countries, nakikita na namin na, for example, there's an entity in Korea, meron siyang employee, meron silang contract with a Philippine entity. Ngayon, rendered offshore, so hindi namin matax. Una, we have a tax treaty. Pangalawa, nandun siya sa Korea. Actually, nung inaaral po namin to, we're looking at the possibility na, paano pag tong person from Korea, mag-apply siya ng digital nomad visa, he comes to the Philippines. Employed siya ni Korean entity. So, yun yung employer niya. But, yung contract niya, yung nire-render niyang service is for a Philippine entity. So, actually, that's one of the concerns namin in terms of international tax, mga cross-border
But the
transactions.
Filipino entity is the client of the Korean entity.
Yes, sir.
But tapos yun yung employer niya, si Korean entity. So, pagbigyan na natin yun. Kasi if you take a look at it, naman, I mean, required ba si employee to pierce the transaction history of his employer? Hindi na siguro.
Ang mangyayari kasi, sir, is si digital nomad will be exempt, but the Korean entity should be paying taxes sa Philippines. Kasi magkakaroon na po siya ng permanent establishment. It will trigger the permanent establishment rule under our tax treaty.
Through that person.
Yes, sir.
Hindi nga. Pero teka muna, definition ba ng nomad? Sige, tignan nga natin sa definition ng nomad. Kasi si nomad, hindi ba parang independent contractor si nomad?
He can be unemployed din po ata.
It's not as specific.
So do you want to parang limit it to digital nomads na parang ano sila, consultants or vloggers or ano ba yun? Yes,
If I
sa
may,
Balabatin.
some of the digital nomads that go here are on the creative business. Like, for example, they're graphic designers. Their contracts can be from several companies that are not based in the Philippines, and they do their work anywhere. So in that particular way, they can be termed unemployed because they have several clients on the pipeline.
Self-employed.
How would you now
Yes, self-employed
categorize?
siya eh. Siya yung no issue doon eh. I think itong isolve natin itong ano lang niya na naging pero
wala
ano
kasi
BI,
yung
parang
tuloy-tuloy.
circumvention ng digital nomad, yata concept yun eh. He's an employee. Ano sa tingin mo, Panyero?
Mr. Chair, when we submitted a regulatory framework before the Office of the President, we made a qualification. A digital nomad can be a person, a remote worker of employers based outside the Philippines, or professional portfolio of a freelancer or independent contractor with clients outside the Philippines. Meron kaming ganung.
Doon sa second part, okay yun. Yun na yung scenario ni ASEC eh. Yung sa first part mo, can be an employee?
Remote worker of an employer based outside the Philippines. Yun yung number one, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, pwede kasi remote worker na siya ng Korean entity but he's also in Korea. Remote worker na siya doon. Punta ngayon siya rito under digital nomad visa. Merong rineraise na issue yung ating international tax division. Sige, pag-isipan natin yun. Basta alam natin yung general purpose. Ang general purpose natin is to attract them to make this their destination or location or place of activity or even work. Ano Panyera? What is your reservation, Attorney Caprice? Sige.
Kasi sir, actually, we feel that it can be a parang tax avoidance scheme if we allow this act as it is. For example, sir, scenario lang, baliktarin natin. Isang Pilipino ang mag-a-apply ng Digital Nomad Visa Act para po mas madali maintindihan. So, under our tax law, resident citizen po, di ba, taxable siya worldwide. Ngayon, pumunta siya kanwari Korea, kasi favorite natin lahat Korea. So, pag more than 183 days siya doon, non-resident citizen na po siya. So, hindi na natin pwedeng i-tax yung na-earn niya sa Korea, Philippines lang. Eh, paano po kung may Digital Nomad Visa Act din si Korea? Hindi rin ito tax yung na-earn niya doon. So, hindi rin na-tax dito. So, in essence po, wala siyang binayaran tax at all. So, double non-taxation po yung mangyayari sa kanya.
Well, I will be happy for him. Kasi dalawang policies of the two states nagbe-benefit siya. I mean, okay na yun, wag na nating problemahin yun. Pero si digital nomad visa holder must be an alien. Tama. So, hindi naman ito malalaro na ng Filipino. So, okay na siguro yun, Panyera. I mean, yung scenario mo, yung isipin mo na lang yun nandito, yung pumunta nga. I don't want it to be abused din eh. Ayaw natin na may loophole eh. So, may digital nomad visa holder dito na remote, na non-Filipino, remote worker na rin ang kanyang original setup sa kanyang original place of work. Pumunta siya rito. Are you interested in taxing that person? In the first place, hindi siya pumunta rito, hindi naman din siya taxable dito.
Sir, because may possibility po na hindi rin siya taxable dun sa home country niya. So, hindi siya matatax doon kasi kanwari...
I mean, but why is that our concern? Kung ayaw siya i-tax ng country niya? It's not our problem. We should not be concerned. Is not being taxed. Gusto nyo, na-maximize nyo pa rin yung collection doon sa kanila.
Sir, ano lang po.
Attorney Tolentino.
Kasi po, if we do not have the Digital Nomad Visa Act, pag nag-render po or nag-exercise po ng profession or employment dito sa Philippines, tapos more than 183 days po, pwede na po natin siyang taxable po. Kaya lang, pinorgo na po natin yung tax revenues. So, ang concern po namin is yung benefit po ba na sinasabi sa cost-benefit analysis will outweigh talaga po yung mga tax forgone. Kasi po yung sa purchasing power po with regards sa VAT, kunwari, sa consumption ng goods and services, we think that it's modest lang po compared to the yung nako-collect po sanang taxes natin sa mga digital nomads kung wala po yung exemption nila from taxes here. So,
but that person will not even come here. Yun ang point eh. That person will not even come here kung normally lang siya. Kaya nga, meron give and take nga ito eh. Ganun nga eh. Yes, Asek. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much if I may. So according to our report from the rise of the global digital nomad, there is an estimated to be 73 million global remote workers and 92 million by 2030. Now, the average monthly expenditure of a digital nomad are the following. For accommodation, it ranged from $800 to $1,200. And we know for a fact that we impose taxes on accommodation establishments in the Philippines. Co-working spaces, they pay at the range of $100 to $300. Food and dining, which we know is one of our major strengths, it's $400 to $600 per month. They spend on that. For local transportation, they spend between $50 to $150 per month. And for entertainment, they spend as much as $300 per month. So, sa akin naman po, I think there are economic benefits as well because they tend to spend more and stay longer if they're a digital nomad. Therefore, we also earn in terms of VAT, EVAT, and other service charges and taxes that would benefit the Bureau of
para sa turista din.
Yes,
para sa turista.
Internal Revenue. Chair.
Pero Panyera, ganun lang yun. Kaya nga ako, nag-vote no nga ako dun sa, yung sa VAT refund natin sa turista. Ganun kasi, talagang ito, concession din ito. Concession ito na, that's why you're also here na to estimate ano yung mga possible, natin, foregone revenues. Pero kasi kaya naman ako kasi payag naman ng payag si BIR dun sa mga, VAT refund sa tourist natin. Against ako dyan, sabi ko, magkano rin yung binano natin? Yung walang walang ma-attract naman natin supposed to be na sila eh. Pero not because of the VAT refund eh. Pero ito maganda ito na siguro nasahan nyo rin mga vloggers din eh, no? Pupunta rito, na ipe-promote ang Pilipinas. Ano pa ba iba yung mga, pinoforgo dati yung revenues na,
Sa mga
Kahit dun sa capital markets reform natin, inano nyo eh. From stock transaction tax from 0.6 to 0.1, pumayag din kayo. Let go yun ah. Oo. Pero na. Ito, sabihin nyo kay Commissioner, sana ito, word of mouth, promotion ng mga ganun, goodwill, mga ganun, tingnan. Tsaka low-hanging fruit and tourism, tulungan natin yung mga tourist, natin. Huwag kayo masyadong mapixate doon sa current law, kaya nga, that's why there is a need for this law to change the regime as far as the digital nomads are concerned. Ngayon, papayag ba tayo doon o hindi? Yun lang tanong, yun lang yung i-assess natin.
Kasi fine na ba talaga na mag-digital nomads sila?
Kaya ang sinasabi nga ni ASEC nga, World Studies, ilang millions yun worldwide?
Currently, 72 million. It will increase to 92 million by 2030.
Ano lang naman yan? Mga projections lang naman yan. But ang gusto sabihin, there are 90 million, ilang Pilipinos doon, i-minus natin eh. Wala masyado. Let's say wala masyado. 90 million. So yun yung parang binagawa natin. Put the Philippines in your radar na dito kayo mag-locate. 115 million na tayo kung mag 90 plus 90 million. Di nakakayanin ng ating mga utilities yun. Hindi, pero joke lang yun. Pero yun ang sabihin, pa-attract lang tayo. Tapos may limit naman eh. May maximum limit talaga. Ano ba yung sinabi mo, Panyero, na yung normal foreigner who is not a special resident, does not have a residence visa, can stay for a maximum of how many years sa Pilipinas?
Mr. Chair, for non-restricted, they can stay up to 60 months po before we direct them to leave the Philippines. Yung total stay po nila. For restricted naman po, we have the 36 months and 48 months po. Ganun. May restriction naman.
Ano logic doon? Why do you want them to leave and then para ma-record natin?
Pag tourist po kasi, Mr. Chair, parang the government would like them to apply for a convert na to a working visa, to a proper visa na po. Kasi po pag tourist, lang sila ng ganun katagal. Masyado pong matagal. Opo.
Although, on a per cycle, nagre-renew naman siya.
Nagre-renew naman po. Yun lang po parang we give them the obligation na just apply for an appropriate visa na ganun.
Hinahayag ko lang yun kasi gusto ko rin yung upper limit na yun should be applicable also to this digital nomad visa holder. Kahit i-allow natin siyang i-renew ninyo, may upper limit din siya na the same rules, the same logic applies. Sige. Yan lang yung gawin. Idagdag natin dito to try to improve the bill. Mahaba na rin yung 5 years. Ito nga, 1 year renewal for another year eh. Hindi ko lang nga makuha yung point bakit ganun. So, i-renew na lang natin up to that maximum point na pwede. Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Chair, just to add, the very essence of a digital nomad is they tend to travel from country to country. So they would not really stay
No need for us to really,
yes, but us providing a digital nomad would increase the attractiveness of the Philippines as a digital nomad destination. Mr. Chair, thank you.
Sige, kasi okay mag-alala dyan dahil kunyari yung retail trade liberalization, ginawa rin namin yun eh. Hindi naman nagdagsaan pumunta rito. Ang point ko is we make it just a possibility, right? Attractive. Pero sila pa rin, they vote with their feet eh. Punta sila rito o hindi. Dami natin kalaban, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand. So, don't worry too much about yung projected lost or foregone revenues natin na in the first place, hindi rin naman tayo sure na pupunta rin dito sa atin eh. Okay, so any other inputs? Si Attorney Tolentino.
Sir, we will just submit a official position paper.
Tama naman, pero maganda yung mga points na rin issue kasi pag i-depend ko to sa floor, itatanong din sa akin yun, dapat masagot natin yun. No?
Can we also ask for a copy of the cost-benefit analysis from DOT? Thank you.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Ganun na lang. Bigyan natin.
Thank you.
Committee ko rin. Sige, bigyan natin sila. So, with that, position papers na lang. Okay. So any other Comsec? We have any other matter? Comsec, wala na. So we thank you for your attendance and your patience. Ang ganda naman yung subject matters natin the whole time. Marami naman tayo natutunan. So thank you very much. So we now we terminate our hearing is hereby adjourned. Thank you.